After years of preparation, our manned mission to Mars finally launched from Earth. The long journey through space was grueling, but the excitement of being one of the first humans to set foot on another planet kept our spirits high. Eventually, the red disk of Mars came into view out the window of our spacecraft. The landing sequence was tense, but thanks to the extensive training we had undergone, everything went smoothly. With a gentle thud, we touched down on the surface of Mars, ready to begin our mission of exploration. Stepping outside for the first time was breathtaking. The landscape looked like something out of a sci-fi movie, rusty red rocks and fine sand extending as far as the eye could see. Of course, our bulky spacesuits made movement difficult, but we were too thrilled to care. We snapped photos and collected samples, reveling in the fact that we were walking on another world. Our first priority was setting up our base camp, which would serve as our home for the next 15 months. We chose a flat site free of large rocks and got to work assembling the habitat modules that had made the journey with us from Earth. It took a full week before the base was completely constructed and operational. The result was a compact cluster of units, connected by tunnels and containing sleeping quarters, science labs, exercise areas, and storage spaces. With the basics of the camp established, we settled into a daily routine focused on exploration and research. Every Martian sunrise, we donned our suits and headed out to study the surrounding terrain and make new discoveries. Careful planning was necessary to maximize the scientific output of each expedition while also conserving oxygen and resources. Back at base camp, we analyzed samples, maintained equipment, exercised to mitigate bone and muscle loss, and communicated findings back to mission control. It wasn't an easy adjustment being millions of miles from home on an alien world, but the importance of our mission kept us going. Over the coming months, our exploration of Mars rapidly expanded outward from the base. We traversed dunes, probed canyons, and climbed towering rock formations, collecting samples and data everywhere we went. Each day brought new discoveries that expanded our understanding of Mars and its history. Some of my most vivid memories were exploring the edges of the massive Valles Marineris Canyon complex. Standing on the precipice of the steep cliffs, the 7-mile deep chasm stretched far into the distance, exposing eons of Martian geological history in its layered rocks. It was humbling to realize our entire base camp could fit inside just a tiny part of this giant canyon system. Equally memorable were expeditions to the South Polar ice cap. Navigating our rovers across the pitted, scored icy plains, we observed massive angular blocks of water ice slowly subliming away in the tenuous atmosphere. Up close, the translucent bluish ice contained trapped bubbles and streaks of dark sand, evidence of the cap's dynamic history. Throughout our stay, Mars surprised us with its stark beauty. Photographs could not capture the vivid sunsets as the sun dipped below the dusty horizon each night, nor could they replicate the eerie quiet that settled during dust storms, blotting out the sun for days at a time. Only by being there in person could we fully experience the allure of Mars's alien landscapes. It was 3 months into our mission when we made an unexpected discovery that raised many questions. While exploring a region southwest of our base camp, we came upon the unmistakable signs of a crashed spacecraft. The wreckage was strewn across a wide debris field, nearly a kilometer long. Closer examination revealed fragments of advanced composite materials far beyond anything we possessed. Whoever built this spacecraft had technology and capabilities dramatically surpassing our own. We photographed everything in meticulous detail, collecting samples of materials and scanning any identifying marks. One large piece seemed to be part of a propulsion system, while another appeared to be a heat shield of some kind. There were no intact bodies visible, organic or otherwise. The condition of the wreck indicated it had been there for a very long time, perhaps decades based on the accumulation of fine dust. Our discovery was promptly relayed back to Mission Control, who were just as stunned. Speculation ran rampant about the origin and purpose of this mysterious crashed spacecraft. Perhaps it was a rover or orbiter from an early, secret Soviet Mars program that was never publicly revealed. Or did it represent technology from another civilization, intelligent life elsewhere in the solar system? The clues were intriguing but inconclusive. In the weeks following the discovery, studying the spacecraft wreckage became a major focus. We dedicated several expeditions to revisiting the debris field, gathering more samples and data. Each new piece we recovered deepened the mystery. One almost fully intact component resembled a data storage device, its surface etched with microscopic hieroglyphic symbols. However, our most sophisticated scanning tools could not decipher their meaning. The material composition did not match any known metal alloys. Nearby, a twisted structural beam had a perfectly smooth surface at the molecular level, indicating a fabrication process far more advanced than any on Earth. Intense debate arose within the team about the true origin of the spacecraft. Some believed it must have been a prototype from a classified human space program, but others argued the evidence clearly pointed to an extraterrestrial civilization. The level of technology was simply too far removed from our own capabilities. Until more definitive proof emerged, the wreckage's origin remained speculative. Back on Earth, cryptic statements from certain government officials suggested that perhaps they knew more about the spacecraft debris than they publicly revealed. But any insights they had were not shared with our mission team as we continued investigating the baffling evidence firsthand. As our stay on Mars stretched on, the health and morale of the crew began deteriorating. After nearly a year in reduced gravity and exposed to radiation, our bodies were showing the strains. Cases of fatigue, bone density loss, and mild radiation sickness occurred despite our treatments and medication. The mental impact of being isolated and confined for so long also started manifesting. Lapses in mood and cognition became more frequent. Some team members required medication to maintain focus as depression set in. Interpersonal conflicts flared up over minor issues. Each of us coped as best we could, trying to maintain sanity despite the challenges. Discovery of the spacecraft wreckage had briefly infused our mission with excitement and unity of purpose, but once the initial thrill faded, old frustrations returned. The riddle of the spacecraft's origin and intent remained stubbornly unsolved, making our day-to-day scientific tasks feel mundane in comparison. Staring at the dust-shrouded habitat and landscape each morning, we yearned for the colors and life of home. Mission Control did their best to keep us motivated and on track with our research goals, but they could not alleviate the bone-deep fatigue and longing for Earth that plagued our isolated outpost. We pressed ahead with our work, buoyed by hope of the homecoming that grew closer day by day. The crew was slowly unraveling, physically and mentally, but we persevered. After nearly 15 months of living and working on Mars, the bittersweet day finally arrived. It was time to depart the red planet and begin our long return trip to Earth. After all the danger, discomfort, and daily grind, we were eager for home, but also wistful about leaving Mars behind. Our outpost had been humanity's first foothold here, however modest. What wonders and revelations would future explorers uncover? We spent a week shutting down systems, packing up equipment, and loading our samples and data into the ascent vehicle. The base camp that had sheltering us from the harsh Martian environment would be left behind, perhaps someday to host new generations of explorers. Before departure, we made one last nostalgic expedition on foot to visit some favorite landscape locations near the base. Despite the trials, Mars had become a second home for us over the mission, and saying goodbye was bittersweet. As the sun dipped low on the rusty horizon, we lingered to watch our last Martian sunset, then headed back to base camp. Strapping into the cramped ascent vehicle, we took one last look out the small portholes at the barren landscape around us. Then the engines roared to life, shaking the hull violently as we blasted upward into the thin Martian sky. I watched the base camp and craters, where we had explored, shrink away rapidly until the descent stage detached, leaving us coasting homeward with Mars a dwindling red orb behind us. During the lonely 7-month return voyage to Earth, we had ample time to reflect on the highlights, discoveries, and lessons of our historic Mars mission. Despite the difficulties and dangers, it had all been worth it. The surface exploration data and samples we collected shattered previous theories and allowed scientists to form a whole new understanding of Mars' past. Our readings and observations of its atmosphere, weather patterns, and radiation environment would drive future planning. An assessment of the toll on our bodies provided critical insights into the effects of reduced gravity habitats. Personally, the mission had tested each of us mentally and physically beyond anything we could have imagined. But we had met the challenge and proven that with sufficient preparation and technology, humans could survive and work effectively on another planet. All of us returned profoundly changed by encountering firsthand the wonders, desolation, and hazards of Mars. Of course, the enigma of the derelict spacecraft remained. Some secrets of the Red Planet have yet to be unlocked. Ultimately, the mission succeeded by developing the knowledge foundation needed to build future voyages. As new explorers follow in our footsteps, they will unravel more of Mars's lingering riddles and draw humanity even closer to answering the ageless question, are we alone? And so the story ends of our pioneering 15 months on Mars, full of both spectacular discoveries and grueling daily challenges. This mission represents merely the first step in humanity's long journey of exploring and understanding the Red Planet. As technology progresses, future teams will travel there to stay ever longer, pushing the boundaries of human endurance and knowledge. Mars has captivated our imagination for generations, and now we have finally ventured there in person, with much more yet to be revealed. Where our voyage ends, the next epic chapter of Mars exploration begins. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new videos.